millions of people throughout the world stuck at home the last 2 months or so, the game industry has seen a significant spike in overall usage. Whether this means players buying more games, sinking more time into content, or spending more time using their devices, the game industry is benefiting from this lockdown, at least partially. COVID-19 has had many great effects on the game industry, including a progression in flexibility of game design, a surge in demand for games such as Plague Inc. and consoles such as the Oculus Quest, and the establishment of a better relationship between the gaming communities and their developers through fire sales and giveaways. The bad has held true to its name, though despite what at first glance seems to be terrible, aka delay or cancellation after delay or cancellation, it is nothing that the game industry cannot do virtually. The game industry can get over having to delay things because at the end of the day, what matters is what people are playing. Your games. So, let's further dive into what has made COVID-19 so good for the game industry. Despite the major interruption that COVID-19 has been, game developers have grown their industry and found great ways to efficiently work from home. For instance, CD Projekt Red has been working on their upcoming game, Cyberpunk 2077, from home. CD Projekt Red said that it took preventative action in trying to minimize the effects of COVID-19 on their studio. They minimized the spread of the virus through what they called a skeleton crew. This crew maintains vital day-to-day functions as well as keeping people out of the building and canceling upcoming events once it becomes necessary to. This crew rotates on a scheduled basis. CDPR had to cancel many showcase events, though they were able to segue most of their advertising into the future or onto social media fairly seamlessly. In preparation for COVID-19, CDPR vastly strengthened their infrastructure. This was done to help their workers work from home. Management has come out and said their workers are still able to do their jobs efficiently and that all projects remain on schedule. This increase in infrastructure also came with the benefit of the developers being introduced with new, specialized hardware, including encrypted hard drives and the use of a VPN. This isn't just some random game developer either. We all know CD Projekt Red is famous for one of the greatest games of all time, that being The Witcher. COVID-19 acted as a catalyst in providing companies with an alternative option to developing. They can now develop games from home, safely, efficiently, and comfortably. More studios, like CDPR, have followed suit in continuing development from home. This was not readily accessible before COVID-19. This increase in flexibility will prove in time to be a lofty advantage for the games industry, allowing them to continue developing despite the circumstance. When the entire world has nothing but time on their hands, games will inevitably be at the top of anyone's to-do list. For the game industry, this means a huge jump in demand for games. So much so that at one point, ISPs and city officials were asking for gamers to limit their playing time in order to preserve bandwidth for people to work from home. This huge surge of gamers playing their games came after only a week of isolation. This isn't the only way the demand for games grew. Games such as Plague Inc. became insanely popular, growing 123% in global downloads and 201.1% in net revenue. The Chinese government even banned it from the Apple Store, understandably so. Gaming tech companies such as Sony and Microsoft have already climbed out of the seemingly insurmountable dips that they experienced early on in the late February stock crash. Not only are games flying off the shelves and gamers throwing hours into games, but game producers such as Sony and Epic Games are offering huge sales on lots of blockbuster titles. Epic Games is currently offering 50% off any game in their store along with 4 AAA titles for free, that being GTA 5, Civilization 6, Borderlands Handsome Collection, and Ark Survival Evolved. 4, yes older, but still relevant games that were really big on release. Sony, comparably, is offering up to 50% off on multiple titles, including the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for 50% off, 35% off for the recently released Neo 2, and the standard 2 free games from PlayStation Plus. These deals come at no surprise as game producers all over the world have felt inspired to give those under COVID-19 lockdown some things to do. When there is a surge of demand for games, there inevitably is a surge in demand for consoles. For instance, though remember this console was selling well before any exterior motivation, the Oculus Quest is on a back order. Much like trampolines lately, the Quest has at times throughout COVID-19 been very hard to come by, or at least impossible to have delivered anytime soon. It is hard to track the actual sales of the Oculus Quest because their parent company Facebook pulls revenue from so many sectors, though Mr. Mark Zuckerberg has released through an interview that the Quest has surpassed $100 million in content sales. To be noted, this does not mean $100 million worth of Oculi, whatever. Likewise, the assumption can be made that Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo saw an increase in sales. There has been so much good in the gaming community due to COVID-19, but it is still important to recognize that it hasn't been all rainbows and lollipops for the game developers. They have seen many delays, such as the cancellation of E3, one of the biggest everything gaming showcases of the year, GDC, which was postponed to be done virtually via YouTube and Twitch, the delay of Nintendo Switch production in Japan, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and EA events all cancelled, and EVE Online's FanFest 2020 was cancelled. This is really only just the tip of the iceberg. The cancellation or postponement of so many large conferences, showcases, and other events can have negative effects later down the road. In conclusion, games have benefited greatly from COVID-19, not without its drawbacks, of course. Video games have grown in demand to the point where video games are nearing ownership of the top entertainment source. A survey in 2019 found that on average, gamers are playing for 7 hours and 7 minutes each week, up 20% from the year prior. Now, take a large lockdown like this into perspective. More people being introduced to video games with time on their hands to get into them. I would be so bold to predict that video games are quickly on their way to replacing TV as society's favorite way to spend their time. In the case of video games versus COVID-19, video games come out on top, bigger, better, and more relevant than ever. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The channel is growing and it's really empowering to see the support received on my first couple videos. As always, any support you provide to the channel is a blessing to me. Thank you for your time and God bless.